Hey guys, what's up? So I wanted to walk you through this email that probably a lot of you got in the last week or so about Amazon's Inventory Performance Index. So they made some changes to this. I know it sounds like big words. I'll explain this in a second. They made some changes to what they call their IPI that is possibly going to affect you. And so you really need to know how the IPI works, what it is, how to fix it. Because what Amazon is threatening, and it's not really a threat, they will do it, it's not just a threat, is they were going to limit the amount of storage space that you have available to you, and they will stop you from allowing to create new shipments if your inventory performance index does not meet the threshold of 500. There's a point system. You have to be at 500 or better, meaning a higher number, or Amazon's going to bring their hammer down. So let me tell you everything we know about this. Okay, so first of all, the IPI is not new. It's just that most of us haven't really had to there haven't really been serious consequences, and the IPI has been really easy to meet. The threshold's been easy to meet. I actually forget was it 4 or 400 up until, anyway, they're changing it to 500 now. So the first thing I want you to do is go into, hold on, okay, go into Amazon, your Seller Central, go to the Inventory tab, go to Inventory Planning, click that, and then there's a second set of tabs that will appear below, and click on, let me look it up myself. Okay, Performance. There's a second tab, Performance. I want you to write this down. Don't do it now. You can do it now, actually, if you want to pause this video. But Inventory tab, Inventory Planning, and there'll be a second set of tabs that appear just below that, and click on Performance. Okay, this is the page you need to be on. So you're going to see your IPI, but then next to that, which is the most important thing, you're going to see all of the ways that you can improve your IPI. Now, if you're above 500 now, you don't really need to worry about this. Okay, so if you see a number that's better than 500, you can. This video is important to understand for the future potentially, but like as of right now, you don't need to worry about it. Okay, if somehow you're below 500, this is going to affect you. So you need to know how to fix this. Okay, so next to that, there's four like categories, four sort of ways that Amazon measures your IPI, and it's going to tell you where you are on the spectrum. And like, in other words, do you need to improve? Is this like an emergency? Like, is this keeping your number way down? Are you below Amazon's suggested limits, or are you in the safety zone? Okay, so there are four, and I'm going to walk you through each of those right now and how you can fix those. So again, if you're below 500, this is like nothing to freak out about at all. Like Amazon on, hold on, let me pause this video and get you a date here. Okay, on August 10th, Amazon is going to impose penalties for people that are below the 500 IPI, again, Inventory Performance Index threshold, okay? So you've got some time. This is not that hard to fix. In fact, these are really, really basic things. So the first one is what they call excess inventory. They're going to and this is not new, but again, it's just the numbers are more strict now. They're dinging you for having excess inventory. And what that means is multiple copies of the same book, okay? So if you have, you get a textbook and you got 10 copies in your inventory, Amazon's looking at that like, hey, you're using us for like cheap storage space and we don't like it. So we want you to like, they want to incentivize us to hold on to our books and only ship them in when we think they're going to sell. In other words, don't ship them in all at once and just sit back and rely on Amazon to provide us cheap inventory. So just understand Amazon's motive here. It's really simple. They're trying to free up space for Christmas time, what they call Q4, or the holidays rather, and the biggest shopping period of the year. And so what they're trying to do is incentivize us to like not burden their warehouses with a bunch of stuff that's really not selling very fast. Okay. So again, these restrictions aren't too strict, so it's not like a big freak out thing. But it's just important to understand why Amazon's doing this, and so that we can. It's not just like most of what Amazon does. You're just left wondering like, what is this weird, bizarre, irrational thing they're doing that makes no sense? This actually does make sense. I'm not like, it's annoying, but it makes sense. Okay, so they're trying to get inventory out of their warehouses. So if you understand why they're doing this, it becomes a lot easier to comply. Okay, so number one, excess inventory. If it's very easy. You can just sort by quantity. You can see which books you have that maybe have like multiple units, and you might consider placing if you don't expect what you have in stock to sell for 90 days. If it's a textbook, you probably do expect it to sell in 90 days because we got textbook season coming up. But if it's something where you're just like, oh yeah, these will sell over the next year, maybe place a removal order, have those shipped back to you, and then just ship them in when you think, like as the other ones sell. Like in other words, you might just leave like 2 or 1 at Amazon and then ship the others in as you expect them to sell, like when those sell. Now, just to understand, when you place a removal order, you can't ship those items back in for 90 days. So you sort of forfeit your right to sell those books for 90 days once you place a removal order, but this will get your inventory performance index score up. So again, excess inventory, it's easy to spot. If you got excess, maybe sort of assess, hey, like, should I maybe, do I expect these to sell in the next 90 days? Essentially, that's the formula, okay? Okay, so next up this is the biggest one of all, your sell-through rate. This is, Amazon doesn't tell us how they weight each of these four. In other words, how each of these four, like which one carries the most weight. They don't really divulge their formula. It's just like sales rank or buy box. Like they don't tell us any of this stuff, right? But I'm almost sure this is like the biggest one, okay? So, and it makes sense because it's the one that burns their warehouses the most, which is people shipping in slow selling inventory and then just using Amazon for cheap storage space, right? So, okay, so this is how you, so the only way, so what you do, if you got inventory, and your sell-through rate is basically the percentage of your inventory that's selling every month. I don't know how they calculate every month, whatever it is. So here's what I recommend. There's two things you can do to increase this, okay? Number one, go through and drop your prices. That's easy because that's gonna get you a bunch of sales, right? None of us like to do this, but if you look at your inventory and you can see, oh my gosh, like I've had this book in my inventory for 9 months or a year or more, it might be the time to start to think about, do I want to, just get this book out the door, right? So if you got inventory that you've had the luxury of just sort of ignoring, maybe now think about, hey, like take a hard look and be like, well, this is really something I should probably try to get out the door. This is also, honestly, if you had a book in your inventory for 9 months, like, most of the time you're going to want to, only if your inventory, only if your IPI is below 500, you really want to like start to think about, do I want to cut my loss on this one or maybe just break even or make less than I anticipated, whatever, right? So take a hard look at your older inventory. Usually that will resolve it. But if like maybe if you're newer, if all your inventory is newer or you don't have a lot of old inventory and what's dragging you down is actually your more recent inventory, you're not old inventory, then you're gonna want to take a hard look at your prices right now. And unfortunately, it'd be great if we didn't get penalized until after textbook season, because a lot of our stuff's going to sell, right? Then maybe it's been sitting around for a while. Unfortunately, August 10th is when Amazon brings down their hammer. And if I didn't mention this in the beginning, or if I wasn't clear about this, they're going to limit the amount of storage space that you have access to. In other words, and they don't tell you what it is, which is really weird. But they're going to say, hey, anything over this amount, they're going to freeze new listings once you exceed your storage limit space, so you can't ship anything in. And then two, they're charging, I think it's $10 per cubic foot. I think that's what it is. For anything that's like left, they'll delist anything in excess of the storage unit. They're going to just like take those listings off Amazon, and then what they're going to do is start charging you an insane amount to store them. So once you get under your storage limit again, then they're going to, like, I don't know if they'll reactivate them or they'll give you the option of reactivating them if you have to do it yourself. I'm not really sure how that works. So the point is, by August 10th, you really want to make sure that you are above the 500 IPI threshold. Okay, so I'm back to the main point. Okay, so your sell-through rate. What percentage of your books are you selling every month or whatever it is, right? I'm assuming it's every month. So you got to get that number up. If you're under 500 now, you've got to get that. You got to start selling inventory, like getting inventory out the door. There's two ways you can do that. Again, dropping your prices, selling that inventory. The other way you can do that is to actually decrease your inventory levels. In other words, get old inventory out of Amazon. Because again, it's a percentage basis, right? So if your sell-through rate is, if you got 100 books in your inventory, right? And you're only selling X amount and Amazon doesn't like it, if you reduce your inventory by 25%, that's going to increase your sell-through rate because you've got fewer books in your inventory. Does that make sense? So, and this is one most people miss. You can actually have inventory removed, in other words, not sell anything, and it still actually increases your sell-through rate because the percentage of books you're selling in the given month is up. And I think it might actually be by the week. The sell-through rate is calculated by the week. I think I just saw that. Anyway, I don't ever pay attention to this stuff. But point is, you can actually just like purge old inventory, and that will get that number up. And that's the one most people miss. So if you've got inventory and you're like, I'm just leaving it here just because I don't know if it's going to sell. It's been here for a long time. Just kind of those wild card things where you just kind of leave it at Amazon just to sort of hope maybe they might sell one day. If you're not going to drop a price on a book or you feel like you can't, then you might want to place a removal order. But you want to do one of those two things. Or you can wait until right until we get up to August 10th, and then if drop your prices, and if nothing sells before August 10th, then just like do a quick removal order or something, right? So that might be an option for you. I don't know like what day of the week, how often they calculate the IPI, so you don't want to wait until like August 9th, because then it might not be calculated, and then I don't know how that works, right? So you don't want to wait until last minute. But okay, so that's the next one. The second one, that's the biggest one, right? Your sell-through rate. The third one is what is the third one? Oh, stranded inventory. What percentage of your inventory is in stranded status at any given time? And it's a little ambiguous as to whether they're punishing you just for having stranded inventory at all, or if they're punishing you for leaving it on stranded status. I think it's just for leaving it on stranded status. Again, Amazon doesn't really tell us much, but I think so. What we want to do here, and this is something, it's a little bit late, but you still have plenty of time to fix this, which is get everything out of your stranded inventory. Whether that means having it shipped back to you, place a removal order, whether it means just resolving whatever the issue is. Like, I get it. Sometimes we just like put off dealing with stranded inventory just because it's so annoying. And stranded inventory, things can end up there for lots of reasons. So whatever the reason is, deal with it as quickly as possible from now on, and get everything out of your stranded inventory right now, to the extent that you can. And then the second here, I'll give you a couple ideas about how you can do that. But get everything out, okay? And start dealing with it quickly. Like, as soon as stuff pops up in your stranded inventory, deal with it. Last one. This one's a little bit weird to me, and I don't feel knowledgeable enough on this to really give definitive guidance here. But so you guys know, if an inventory item sells, it still sits in your inventory, right? It's still in your inventory, and it just sits there, and it's just at zero. Your inventory level's at zero, right? And you'll get emails from Amazon. It's like, hey, restock your inventory, and it's like, what does it have to do with me? Like, that's for people selling like multiples all the time. So you just ignore those emails, and so your inventory still sits there. You don't delete those listings, most of us, right? Now, this has come up a lot. Like, and you'll see this in the Facebook group, and people ask like, hey, is there any advantage to deleting old listings? And this is where I'll just be honest. I think I've been wrong on this, because I've been very dismissive of the value of deleting old listings. Other people have weighed in, and they'll say, oh, well, it's really important because Amazon can come back and ding you for like some intellectual property violation, or all those weird things you hear about. If it sees something in your inventory, even if you haven't sold it for years, Amazon could come back and ding you for that. And I was always like, what are the odds of that? I was always like kind of dismissive of it. And actually, about a month ago, it happened to me. Okay, so I had sold. I'm not even kidding. This was literally, I didn't do math. I think it was literally 7 or 8 years ago. I sold like a case of Comet, like the cleaning powder. I've never used it personally. I found it at a dollar store. I bundled a bunch together, and I sold it on Amazon. And Comet Incorporated, Procter & Gamble, whoever makes it, came back and filed like an intellectual property complaint. I was like, wow, what? Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? But it was something I sold 7, 8 years ago. So, of course, when it finally like affects me, all of a sudden I changed my tune, right? So I realized, okay, this can actually happen. So I went through and deleted all my old inventory, all my inactive inventory. I deleted everything, right? Because I did realize, even though people told me for years, I realized it can actually happen. So anyway, I'm totally jumping ahead. So the last one I forgot to mention is your restock rate. In other words, hold on, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to make sure I get my language right here. Okay, sorry, not restock rate, your in-stock inventory rate. And apparently, and again, they don't really tell you much, but apparently what they do is they're basically looking at what percentage of your listings actually have active offers. Like how many of them are you actually selling? Super weird, right? It's like, why would we have to go and delete old lists? It makes no sense, right? As booksellers, there's no real benefit that I can see of leaving items that have sold in your inventory on zero status, because we're not restocking inventory a lot. We're just basically selling books opportunistically as we find them. We're not restocking the same ISBNs over and over again, right? Most of us anyway. So I don't see any, so I would recommend you go through and just delete everything that's old. I don't see any benefit to not doing that. Yeah, I don't see any benefit to it. I'd be curious for those of you who there is some reason to leave those, undeleted. Go and let me know in the comments. But I would just go through and delete everything, because that will definitely improve your in-stock inventory rate, because then it'll get up to 100%. So just to recap, and I'll give you a couple tips here in a second. I already forgot. Your sell-through rate, your stranded inventory rate, what was the first one? Hold on a second, pause. Oh yeah, excess inventory rate, and then your in-stock inventory rate. Those are the 4 metrics that Amazon looks at, and so this is pretty important, especially if you're under 500. But if you're kind of on the precipice, like you think it might dip below 500, you're gonna want to deal with some of this stuff right now. A couple things. We have a couple tools I'll just mention that will help with this. If you've got a lot of items in your inventory that are there because of high pricing errors, we got a tool. I've maybe heard me talk about it before. If you go to fixpricealerts.com, or you just go to your inventory page, you'll be able to see, scroll down, you'll be able to see it. It's $47 for an entire year to use this. And it basically automates the process of resolving high pricing errors, partially automates. And it basically just applies what I call brute force on Amazon to resolve high pricing errors. And so if you have a lot of excess or stranded inventory right now because of high pricing errors, this will definitely help you with those, because those can be extremely time consuming. Okay, so the next one is our tool called Liquidator. Now what this does, and this is actually designed precisely for getting rid of old inventory. So if your sell-through rate is suffering, and or for that matter, I guess your excess inventory rate, but either of those are a problem for you, you just really need to get rid of old inventory. Liquidator is a fantastic tool to do that, because what it does is it goes through, it embeds 2 columns in your Amazon inventory page, 2 new columns. One is for the trade-in value for every book in your inventory, and the other one is for the cash buyback value. So what it does, it automatically scans the page in your inventory and publishes right at the top of the page how much trade-in value Liquidator detected in your inventory, and then how much cash buyback value. And then next to every single book, it'll tell you here's how much you can get for cash for this book right now if you traded it into a cash buyback site or Amazon's trading program, which is actually, Amazon's trading program is actually disabled right now. So really right now, it would just be for cash, and which is better anyway. So it'll put the number right, and then it'll link over to the cash buyback site, so you can just lock that price in, have the book returned to you, ship it into the cash buyback site, and cash out. So if you're really dealing, this is particularly good for those of us that have large inventories, and if you're dealing with oh my God, I've got 3,000 books, I need to go through and figure out which ones to liquidate, which ones to not. Liquidator it does the hardest part, which is basically telling you, hey, here are all the books that you can get cash value for right now from a cash buyback site. So you can get that. You can sign up for that in your inventory page. It's $47 to install, and then $4.99 a month after that. And so you can go to your account page in Zen Arbitrage right now, or if you go to liquidator.com, but it's spelled weird, it's LYQUIDATOR.com. You'll see a demonstration of how it works. So this, again, is particularly good for those of us that have large inventories. This can really, really trim down your inventory fast, which again will increase your sell-through rate instantly. So that's it, you guys. Lots to cover here. Hopefully this is beneficial for you. Again, just to recap how I started, go to your Amazon Seller Central, go to inventory planning, and then a second set of tabs will show up, and click on inventory performance. And there you will see that's the best place to see your inventory performance index score right next to, hey, here's how you can improve your index score. And this is pretty necessary right now, because we don't really know what inventory limits Amazon is going to impose. So on August 10th, they're going to say, hey, if your number's below 500, we're basically going to deactivate any listings in excess of your inventory limits, which is the worst time, because it's right before, it's literally the week that textbook sales are starting to blow up, right? So this is pretty key. And so we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. As far as I can tell, Amazon is not explicit about what the inventory limits are going to be. Maybe they posted something. I haven't seen it, but I certainly have no email that I've seen that anyone sent me or that I've read or anywhere on their Amazon page have I ever seen anywhere where it says, hey, this is exactly what the amount's going to be. And anyway, it's not hard to calculate because there is a place on Amazon where you can see how much cubic footage you're using. But anyway, point is, you just want to deal with this now. You don't want to be dealing with this on August 10th. And so this is pretty important because it would be so bad, you guys, if like literally right as textbook season is starting, Amazon was like, you can't sell 80% of your inventory. Like that would be the worst, right? So deal with this right now. Post any questions below. And yeah, thank you guys for watching.